Hey everybody, I'm not Josh, but I am Madison Cunningham, and welcome to the JHS show.
Did you grow up in a musical family, or is there an or?
There's no or. I did grow up in a musical family, as in that was just, my dad always kind of had a guitar in his hand, and he was and still is a worship pastor. My first introduction into music was watching him play guitar, and then him kind of bringing me on stage with him and singing. And that's kind of where I learned harmonizing and playing and singing at the same time. So yeah, it was a really big deal. I think he was the first person that really got me excited about writing songs too.
Do you remember the first time that music absolutely caught your attention? So you grow up in a musical family, but when was the switch turned on for you?
Honestly, probably when it flipped on was when I was really young, because I wanted to play guitar at age 4, because I was just loved it and loved the look, and I didn't actually play till I was 7. So maybe there was a light bulb that went on that I don't remember feeling, but I think the thing that is most substantial in my memory was when I was like 12. I listened to this girl named Brooke Fraser, which a lot of people are familiar with, but she had come out with a solo record, and all of her songs just opened up all of these new possibilities, and it absolutely took me off guard. And the first concert I ever went to was hers, and that was another one of those. That concert was the date that I knew I wanted to be a musician.
What was the first album you bought with your own money?
Keep in mind, I was 16 at the time that this came out, so I had just gotten my first car and finally had access to my own radio. It's Adele's 21.
That's great. I thought you were gonna say Spice Girls or something.
But still, I mean, it sounds like such a new record to me. It wasn't anything like historic, like, oh, I went and bought Joni Mitchell's Blue. It was like Adele's 21, but that is historic for our time, but it wasn't anything that...
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Is there a song that you wished you had written? Like, what is the song where you go, I wish I'd written that song?
Anything by Paul Simon.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, his lyrics are perfect. His songs are so planned out from beginning to end. It feels like there's not really a thing that goes by that's like not thought out.
What's your favorite Paul Simon song?
I love American Tune. It's a really good one.
So demonstrate the weirdest chord you know.
I feel like my chords are weird because of the context. So the context would be
Yeah. It fits, but it should not fit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those are the chords that I like. Mm-hmm. That you're like, that kind of sucks, but she means it, so it must be right.
I see that in your lead, when you play lead melodies, you clash as hard as you can into the melody. Do you know that you do that?
I love that, yeah.
It's like notes are hating each other. They're coming out of your guitar and it works.
Well, I like things that are
like dissonance.
Dissonance and notes that are very close together. Like, that's in Pin It Down. My ear gets so excited.
So that's like satisfying to you.
It feels like resolve.
Yeah.
To me.
I love it.
my dissonance, my tension is resolve.
Yeah. Why the Jazzmaster? I've only seen you play Jazzmasters.
It was kind of an accident. My friends got, I would say, the cheaper model of this. I think it was an American Jazzmaster. I can't remember the exact model. My 2 friends who I'd been kind of making music with both came back with these identical guitars, and they're like, "How do you got to get on the train? They're not that expensive, and they actually sound really good for the price." So I went to Guitar Center and sat with this, and I was convinced that it sounded good. And I still feel that it does, and it works really well for low tunings. And so I have 2 now that I rotate. This feels like it holds the tension of the sort of baritone-ness of it, but a bass can still kind of hang.
What was your first guitar pedal that you ever owned?
Hall of Fame.
The TC Electronic Hall of Fame.
And I would put it on my acoustic too, because I played acoustic for a long time too, and I thought, it's so cool that you can put effects on your acoustic. So I tried everything on it, tremolo. I loved it so much. But the Hall of Fame had so many cool little functions.
This might be impossible, but who is your favorite band?
Radiohead.
That was easy for you.
Easy.
So like you didn't even blink.
Oh,
Like, no.
they're my band.
When did you first hear Radiohead?
Probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
What album?
OK Computer was what I started with, and I hated it at first. All the records that I love, I had a really negative reaction to at first. And so now, because I've been through that enough times, I've decided that if I really, really dislike it, I need to really give it a chance.
I do the same thing. The first Radiohead record I ever heard was OK Computer, and I didn't listen to it all the way through, hated it. And then later I heard Kid A and loved it, which is real weird. Like,
interesting.
Most people hate Kid A. Like, it was...
It's very glitchy.
Yeah.
It's not as song-driven, necessarily.
My favorite records are records that they grinded against everything. They're like hard to
Exactly.
listen to. Yeah.
Like, honestly, Jeff Buckley's Grace is one of my favorite records. And I don't know why. My first reaction was beautiful voice, but I don't love everything. And something switched where I just got it, and I was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. I can't believe someone pulled this off.
What are some other records like this for you? You know, are there any-
Fiona Apple's Win the Pawn. When I first heard that record, I really couldn't get through it. And then I listened to that record. She was my top artist, Spotify told me this year. And every time I'm on an airplane, she's I have my turbulent songs. So like, if the plane starts, going through some clouds, I'll be like, okay, we're going to Fiona. We got to get angry. And if I can get in the mood of the plane shifting, then I feel okay.
That's awesome.
So yeah, Win the Pawn. I love that record.
What's the first song you ever wrote? Do you remember it?
Mm-hmm.
Can you play it? Can you play like a smidge of it?
This young girl traveling through this confusing world with a burden on her shoulders, lost and sad, wondering if this is all she has, feeling so alone. Feeling so alone. Yeah.
That's really good.
No, you don't have to lie. Your voice cracked.
No, you never want to hear my first song. So, yeah, that was impressive.
I really do, actually. I think it's only fair.
It's like a bad grunge song.
Yes.
Yeah. This is a question from my daughter. So she's becoming a big fan of yours. And she had a question. She wanted to know, her name is Emma, and she wants to know the most embarrassing moment you've had on stage.
Oh. There's so many. One time I was playing in an outdoor venue and it was so hot and it was on the beach, and I felt the whole time like things weren't going very well and no one was paying attention. And in the same set, I kid you not, I played piano for one song and my microphone just kept kind of just dropping. And I by the end of it, I didn't know that I could stop and maybe fix it and kind of let the band keep going. So I just thought I had to follow the mic, and I was down here by the time it was over, basically playing upside down. And then in the same set, I picked up my guitar and played, and in the middle of it, my strap just fell. And I was so mortified. I probably cried about it for a couple weeks. And I thought, I will get better. That will never happen again.
That's really painful. It's like every gig is so important when you're starting. So
important.
Yeah.
For maybe not even the people there or for your opportunities or the opportunities you'll get, but it's like just for your confidence. And if your confidence really, if it tanks that bad, then it takes so much more work to get your confidence back.
Yeah.
And your dignity. Like, you've got to go find it again.
Do you have any hobbies that we're unaware of? Like, do you have any strange hobbies?
Plane watching.
Plane watching. Do you want to explain that?
It's exactly what you think it is, and it's also a little deeper than that.
Okay.
Some call it obsessive, but I own this. I own this app called Flight Radar 24, and basically, as planes take off and as they land or as they're flying across the sky, I have a little scanner on my phone that scans that plane and tells me where it's going, how many passengers it has on it, where it came from, the altitude, the speed. So one time, I love it because my dark side is that I love plane emergencies. I don't know why, I just kind of enjoy that.
What is a plane emergency?
You know, an engine exploding or something.
Okay.
And one time I was watching a plane fly out of LAX, and then it just made a huge loop and turned around, and then I found out later that there was a engine malfunction or computer thing. But it's really peaceful to me, not to watch accidents, but to watch them just sort of like defying gravity and soaring.
What is your writing process like?
To me, songwriting is a muscle, and that sounds very self-explanatory or like trite. But to me, it's something that if I don't work on it every day, I fall out of it or lose love for it. So I try to just maintain a healthy diet of writing every day for 10 minutes, just whatever is on my mind with no agenda. And then the way I write songs usually is off of guitar parts. So if I can sit down, you know, with a guitar or guitar and amp at some point in the day, there's always usually something that will form like a chord progression or a riff. Those are sort of the things that excite me into writing a song.
Do you pin lyrics and then add to, or do you?
It'll change. Sometimes I'll just be walking and then a lyric will make sense for that melody and chord progression that I've been wrestling down, or sometimes it all happens at once. Then those are my favorite songs, when it feels like the thought from beginning to end is fluid, you know, and the chords and the transition. But I've had songs that I've worked on for a couple years, just trying to figure out, you know, because I'll lose it, or, you know, find it again and then lose it again. And so it's different all the time.
What's the fastest you've ever written a song that you loved? Like
Beauty and the Cliches.
Really?
Was in a day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a cool song.
When that sort of thing happens, you don't have to tell yourself, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna do this. You're just already sat down and it's just happening. And like, you go with it, and there's nothing that entices you to stop. You're not even hungry. You're just like, this is so fun. What's happening? It's raining.
What's some advice you have for aspiring songwriters?
I would say to be consistent and to be ready to show people your work and to not be afraid of that, and to welcome criticism as well. I think as impersonal as you can make your ideas, in the sense that you don't feel like your ideas are you and you can be separate from them, the better, because then someone can pick apart your idea and not pick apart you. I would say to go with all of your ideas and see them through, even if they're bad. Write a bad song, but finish it.
Cool. Is there anything that's usable out of that?
Oh, yeah. Who are some of your favorite guitar players?
Feist was probably the first girl guitar player that I ever saw.
I love her.
Oh,
Yeah.
she's the best, the best. Current would be like Blake Mills, Juana Molina, the girl that I remember the record.
Oh,
that-
yeah.
So that's
sorry.
all her.
I was pronouncing her name wrong.
For 4 years, I listened to her and had no idea all the guitar parts that I was drooling over on this record were her. because I watched a video and she's playing all this really complicated dissonant chords and changes and movements, and it's all her, and she's singing kind of perfectly throughout the whole thing, like on this, like singing a counter melody over this really intensely hard thing. That's so exciting to me. And there's Joni as well. She really, I think, kind of led the charge for open tunings. Like when you think of it, like you can hear her songs and other people trying to mess around with open tunings, you know?
On the subject of alternate tunings,
Yeah.
you primarily play alternate tunings. Do you play standard at all?
Rarely, unless I feel like, you know, if I'm on a session or something and I'll go there. But to me, it feels much more foreign than open tunings do. Because I kind of started getting into that world when I was like 11 and 12. And then I heard people like Joni, and then I heard like slide players like Derek Trucks, and so many countless singer-songwriters who have kind of gotten into that. And so anyway, that took me deeper.
So 11 and 12, you're playing alternate tunings.
I was.
Where did you first see it?
My guitar, he wasn't really my teacher necessarily, but he taught at my dad's school, because my dad runs a music school. He just started talking about him. He started with like dropping E to D, and I was like, that's so cool. It's deep, it's like a bass, and there was different possibilities or whatever. And then he went further into it and was like, there's Dad Gad, there's Dad Fishad, there's open G, which I don't know much about actually, but yeah.
So you play in, what is your tuning like for Pin It Down?
So Pin It Down is technically standard shapes, right?
Okay.
So as if you're playing an E standard, but it's C standard. So it's baritone basically. It's pretty easy, and then the line is kind of just pentatonics. Minor pentatonics. And then it turns major at the last second. It's nothing crazy, it's just deep. And it just sounds, what's really weird about it is in standard, the notes don't sing the same way, obviously, but it doesn't sound like minor. It just sounds like, that's kind of a weird progression. It doesn't hit the same way.
Talk about the sound. So you're tuned down, and you have reverb from an amp, and you basically leave vibrato on all
kind
the
of
time.
Always, yeah, because it's the more choppy vibrato, which is the amp vibrato.
Like a tremolo.
I'll turn that on and off, but this penguin pedal, which you know a lot about, it's kind of this really nice wave.
Pitch.
It's a pitch bender, really, and it stays on, but it kind of deepens a lot of the chords or tunes them in a way that.
Okay. Can you like demonstrate it?
You can kind of hear it. Yeah, I always feel really confident with this pedal on because it feels like a nice bed of something that's other than me just going direct into my amp, which I love that too, but it shifts the mood a little bit.
So yeah, your sound is really cool. It's really unique. The guitar's tuned down, slap echo, pitch vibrato. It's really cool. I mean, you found like a perfect recipe. It's so different. Doing your sessions, like we've known Tyler for a while, your producer, co-writer, like what's your relationship there?
Well, I call him song editor.
Song editor.
Because I'll come and something will be underwritten or overwritten and he'll just take the scissors and sometimes he's donated a couple lyrics before too.
So when you were tracking your record, even the one before the EP, you guys started experimenting with leaving on these vibratos.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that, what it was like.
Well, there was a natural vibrato because they decided to use 2 amps. So there's a pedal that kind of puts them together, and you can hit a button that will just focus on one, or you hit a button that will focus on both of them. We would turn the tremolos on the amp like at different levels or different speeds, so that it would kind of make this like magnetone
It's like
vibrato.
3D.
Yeah, it's 3D and yeah, dimensional and all of that. So that's what inspired this pedal, because we kind of stuck that pedal on one of the amps, but then I'm not always able to travel with 2 amps. So it just kind of creates that illusion, that effect that there's like a depth and a dimension to that. Yeah, I would say recording and just experimenting with tones is kind of how I found the sound. Tyler was really helpful because my tunings are so deep, it felt like it was getting too crunchy or the sound was getting lost. Or so if I use a distortion pedal, it's pretty light. Like I use it more as a boost. I don't try to get too much grunge crunch.
I'm going to ask you questions, and you're not allowed to think about them. You just have to go for it. Sweet or spicy?
Mexican. Wait, what? I didn't think about it.
All right.
Oh, it's a
Perfect
okay.
answer.
Okay.
Sweet or spicy?
Spicy, please.
Or is it spicy or sweet? Turtles or bunnies?
Bunnies.
Favorite color?
Pink. It's not, but keep going. Green.
Green.
Mint green.
Okay. The Beatles or Radiohead?
Radiohead. How dare you?
How do you feel about the Beatles? I'm curious.
I love the Beatles. Some of it's a little silly for me. I mean, Octopus's Garden.
Chicago style or New York style pizza?
New York. Chicago.
She's wrong. She is wrong. Seinfeld or Friends?
Friends.
I forgive her as well. What's your favorite salad dressing?
Balsamic vinaigrette.
That says a lot about you.
Really?
What's the worst movie you've ever seen?
Fireproof?
That's a really bad movie. The best concert you've ever been to?
Tedeschi Trucks.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have never pegged that. All right, last question. Is cereal a soup?
Wow, you're hitting me with the deep cuts today. It's not a soup
Why is it not a soup?
because it's original. Can't be pegged as a soup.
So cereal is its own thing. Even though it's in a bowl with the solids mixed in with the liquid, it's not a soup.
It's not a soup. I just can't.
What is a soup?
I think soup usually doesn't have milk in it, you know? Sometimes it does. It depends. I'm getting really nervous now. It's just not a soup. I sound like a mom. Because! You can't do it because!
I don't think you're sure. And
I don't think you're sure.
I'm pretty sure.
You think it's a soup?
It's a bowl full of liquid with stuff mixed into the liquid. And you eat it with a spoon.
You can have a sweet crepe and you can have a savory crepe. So I guess you can have a sweet soup and a savory soup. I think we've discovered another deep issue.
We're also at the bottom of the barrel on this question.
Yeah.
Like that was it.
Okay, it's a soup. I'll give it to you.
It might
It's a
not
soup.
be.
Today's record time is brought to you by Wed 21 by Juana Molina. This record I heard first when I was making my first record, and the drummer sort of pulled this up just as we were setting things up so the room wasn't dead silent. He turned this record on, and first of all, I'm just so inspired by all the tones that this wonderful woman here, who is faceless currently, sort of got out of her guitar and the pedals that she uses and her amps, and sort of created all of these tracks that kind of function like loops. And she kind of, in order to change sections, will stack other instruments and different melodies over these sort of loops. And I want to say that she programs a lot of the drums herself as well. I don't know that to be a fact, but I know that it seems that is the case. One of my favorite tracks off of it is the first one. It's called Eras. I'm not totally confident on how to pronounce it. So anyway, this has been a very important record to me in just what she's brought to the table for guitar and songwriting, and you should check it out. Beep, beep.